Hello, good evening, welcome to UPfront. My name is Raymond Aqua. Today, the last 48 hours have seen some very interesting communication in the Republic of Ghana after the president delivered his state of the fight against corruption in the country at the Ghana Bar Conference. The response was from the NDC, which virtually rubbished everything the president said and insisted that the president is still in the business of clearing his people and is actually the most corrupt throughout the history of this country. And that is how they left it off. Now, the NPP today also picked up that particular issue in a press conference. They turned the hit on the NDC, accusing it of being perhaps the most corrupt in our history, adding on to that and saying that they are pretending not to see the good works that the executive president has been doing for this country when it comes to the fight against corruption, challenging them to show similar action they did during that time when it comes to the fight against corruption. My guest in studio is a member of parliament. He speaks for the minority. So if you like, it was first the president speak, and then we know that there was an initial response from the NDC, then an initial response to the response of the NDC by the NPP. Now, the member of parliament put this in perspective for me. Have we done enough? The Honorable A.B.A. Fuseni is actually the spokesperson of the minority. We'll also have on the phone lines a conversation that moves beyond politicians. So those in civil society active and those who are basically retiring, we'll do an independent assessment of our fight against corruption, and the verdict will be delivered here on UPfront. Be sure to stay with us after the break. We'll be going to the phone lines first. We'll be joined via Skype too, and also get the conversation rolling. But you can't go anywhere. You welcome back. This is UPfront. My name is Raymond Aqua, and we can start off with in studio here. Soon be going to that particular phone line. We'll also be joined via Skype from the end of CD, the East Deputy Executive Director, Dr. Franklin Ojo, will be joining us on the phone. One man who's led the fight against corruption in many fronts, leading the GII, Ghana Integrity Initiative, leading the Ghana Anti-Corruption Campaign Coalition, and doing all of the work in this country, has been invited as him. He'll also be joining us in this conversation. But first, Honorable, you're welcome to UPfront.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well. It's been a long time since we had a conversation on the very things happening in this country.
Yeah, Raymond.
Let me first take your thoughts generally. How did the president's statements at the Bar Conference go for you?
Before I get there, please, let me say a good evening to your viewers and take an opportunity to preface my answer to your question with a very unfortunate comment that His Excellency the President made.
Unfortunate?
On the same plan. Very, very unfortunate.
What's the problem?
A colleague. You know, Raymond, I feel very passionate about the media. I haven't been a media man for almost 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
And so, as our people say, no matter how disenchanted the old soldier is, we shy away from the barracks. There are issues concerning the media, and especially when he spoke about the very difficult circumstances under which our brother, Ahmed Swale, lost his life in the line of duty. For the president to have made a comparison with the already very bad situation that happened with the murder of our colleague, Honorable J.B. Dankwa, to say why would people not say that was an assault on press freedom? It's most unfortunate, coming from the President of the Republic.
What's the point? He says that you cannot approbate and reprobate at the same time. Look, you cannot claim that when it comes to MPs, it's not really an attack on the legislature.
Are the circumstances the same?
Journalists,
are the circumstances the same?
What circumstances?
And we are talking about your inability to resolve the matter under your watch. Raymond, you can't do anything about the situation. The parents of these people are grieving. The loss. The state has not been able to console them, has not been able to find the perpetrator of that heinous crime that was committed. So the last thing you should do is to bring the issue back to the front burner. The president was absolutely insensitive.
The president was clear in his mind. He actually said that it was a very terrible incident.
Yes, but I'm saying that
his heart goes out to the family.
What was the point? What point did he want to make?
His point was
that comparison was completely inappropriate.
Do you think that the attack and the subsequent killing of the gentleman Ahmed Swale was an attack on what they call media freedom?
I'm just indicating to you Raymond, go and see the repercussions that has had on this country's press freedom ratings and the image that it has sent outside to the Committee of Nations. Ghana has been well served by that kind of dastardly act that was committed. So the last thing you should do when you are completely incapable and unable to resolve the matter is to bring the thing back to the front burner and say it in the manner that you say, to seek to compare. I think that was completely inappropriate.
To say that the president is completely incapable of resolving the matter.
I said that so far he has shown
a complete cart before the horse. There are investigations currently ongoing.
Look, let me tell you, Raymond, as we go on, you will begin to find out that the one cliche, the abuse phrase, the one phrase that is more abused than at any other time in our history is so-called investigations. This government hides behind so-called investigations to sweep many things under the carpet.
Are you disputing that there are investigations?
They don't, many of the time, they don't investigate anything. There are no investigations going on. They just use the facade of investigation to sweep the matter under the carpet. And as we go, Raymond, I'll be able to demonstrate to you
I will take
the facade that they hide behind this issue of investigation to sweep matters under the carpet.
It's an interesting point you make out there. I hope you're able to submit virtually every single incident you make reference to the proper scrutiny. The president in the statement said they are relevant bodies that have been doing the clearing of people and investigating and subsequently clearing them. And that he is only sometimes the communicator who expresses what has been done by these institutions to us. The tag of he being a clearing agent is unfair, it's not representative of the reality on the ground, and it is by you in the NDC.
I think it's a very apt description of who the president and what he does.
But it is true that he doesn't do investigations. The executive president doesn't do investigations.
Raymond, let me say without any iota of hesitation, and I've said it before, from the very onset, that to accuse this government of engaging in those acts of fraud that we have listed, and remember, this is the government with the highest allegations of fraud in the history of our country.
How many do you know?
Let me go on. I'm indicating to you, Raymond, that you see, as our people say, that when you make the hyena the caretaker or superintendent of your crowd, don't expect to come and find one animal alive. From the very onset, from the day President Nana Akufo-Addo was sworn in, the corruption started from that day.
Sorry,
when they went for that, yes, I'm showing you that stolen speech, that plagiarized speech he read.
The portions of the speech.
Yes. We were the object of derision in the International Committee of Nations for stealing.
But has that got to do with corruption?
What? Is that not a corrupt act?
Really?
That is a defined corruption.
Corruption.
That is a corrupt act.
Using your office
that
to
you go and steal somebody's speech without even acknowledgement. That is a corrupt act from the very first day.
I didn't know the corruption was defined that way, but
I am telling you this. So I'm indicating to you from the very first day. Raymond, we are talking about issues that have started, in fact, not just from the minority. And I felt very sad that the president had an opportunity to address the nation and rally the nation behind a common onslaught to fight corruption. And look at the incompetent manner in which he handled it.
But the NDC has been attacking
when you have the opportunity to rally the country, you chose to say that they should go and watch. Only 21 members of the opposition, of the NDC,
a standing trial,
are standing trial as evidence of your fight against corruption.
What's the dispute here?
That's poetry to say.
No, hold on. This government, when it was in opposition, said that the NDC was corrupt.
Let me indicate.
And they are going to make sure that the people who are corrupt are put in jail.
Yes, let me indicate to you.
It's exactly what they are doing.
Let me indicate to you. That the greatest strength of a leader who wants to fight corruption is his ability to take on everybody, including his own people.
Is that not happening now?
As we go along, I will demonstrate not a single person under this government has been made to face the law in terms of corruption.
Even after all the investigations?
Not one. That's why I told you that none of those investigations have just been used as a funny tool. There have been no investigations. So Raymond, I'm just saying that when you have that opportunity,
you're a member of parliament.
Because you see,
you're not a lay person.
He sought to do, Raymond, what he sought to do was to label the National Democratic Congress as the only instrument that is critical of his government. Raymond, as we speak today, corruption is taken to the high heavens. Corruption is so pervasive under the government of Nana Akufo-Addo that today the slogan 1D, 1F It's no longer one district, one factory. It's one day, one fraud under the government of Nana Akufo-Addo.
Okay.
Let me tell you this, Raymond. Hardly a day passes, and it is not NDC people. Today, in fact, I just read a statement that was attributed to the secretary, the Ashanti Regional Secretary of the NPP. And if there was any other person in the NPP holding Nana Akufo-Addo as incorruptible, he must throw that view away. Because Mr. Sampine himself says that everybody, including the president, is corrupt.
This is on that particular.
I am telling you.
You took him out of context.
I am telling you today. I say corruption is so pervasive under Nana Akufo-Addo that today even the international community, they are crying foul. You saw the thing that went viral on social media. The Dutch ambassador.
He has clarified that. Have you seen the clarification?
It hasn't taken anything away. He says that you should rather implement a policy of Ghana beyond corruption. It tells you that even the international community, they are alarmed at the rate of corruption in the country.
That's what he clarified.
Go back
and it's
and
really
listen.
Not about
Look,
this government.
Dr. Nyaho Tamakolo, he's not an NDC man. You see? He's a founding member of the New Patriotic Party.
Really?
He says that corruption under Nana Akufo-Addo is unprecedented in the annals of our country. The rate. Dr. Charles Rekubobi, after Kennedy, even the one who was clearing the way in the run-up to the 2016 elections for Nana Akufo-Addo to win Nanobo, A+. You know the role he played for the NPP in the 2016 elections.
So to you, it is what
all of them are singing loud songs of deep-seated corruption under Nana Akufo-Addo's government today. So why would the president have that platform and choose to say that these are NDC people?
Okay, give me a second.
Who are people who are bent on tagging him as corrupt?
Let me go to the phone line, so that will give me a second. Let me speak to Dr. Franklin Ojo of CDD. Yes, let me, of course, Dr.
Raymond,
Franklin
I just wanted to associate on my point.
I'll come to you in a moment. Dr. Franklin Ojo of CDD joins us via Skype. Doc, you're welcome to our front.
Thank you, Raymond. Good evening, and good evening to the Honorable.
So there are varying verdicts by the various groups. Government thinks it's doing wonderful work. It's on course. It has mentioned the special prosecutor, 21 NDC people under prosecution. The other things, increasing the anti-corruption institutions and their budget, and the very fact that every single allegation, the president stresses that every single allegation that has been made under this government has either been investigated or being investigated. Is this the verdict that this government is actually doing enough about corruption? What is the state of the fight against corruption in the country today?
Well, thank you. First of all, I think for every government and for responses that government provides, we have to match that or test that to public views and public perception and reaction to that. It seems to me that for the NPP government, the reaction and the public view and perceptions and thoughts about the way the NPP government is fighting corruption is less than less than what people expected when the party was in opposition and campaign. So really, you are certainly going to have a government in power, just like all governments that we have seen in the Fourth Republic, that would try to defend their record for fighting corruption. But it's up to the public and the citizens to judge and to measure whether the effort being put in place by the regime is actually effective and responding to the concerns of Ghanaians as to corrupt practices. I think we also have to add to this conversation that all successive governments, including the current one, will continuously say that, well, we have passed these laws, we have enacted this legislation, we have created these institutions, investigative bodies are working. But the question is, how effective are these investigative bodies? And in this particular instance where the president cites reports from the investigative bodies, unfortunately, not many of us have gotten the opportunity to see the contents and the basis for which these investigative bodies produce reports that said that the allegations made against these individuals are not true. And so without the benefit of citizens and other stakeholders seeing the report, it creates doubts in the mind of the people whether in sincerity the investigative bodies really did a good job. Because we don't know what they investigated. We don't know the parameters. We don't know the issue that came before the investigators. All that we know is that we have investigated the matters and we did not find any wrong with these individuals involved. And that creates a big worry. And I think that the fact that the issue of corruption has become a political game for at least for the two main parties that have gotten the opportunity to govern this country, it creates problem for how sincere and how effective that we are able to deal with this cancer that is really affecting our society.
Okay, so you're saying that we are politicizing the fight against corruption. It makes it difficult for any honest admissions about failures and also our ability to collectively fight this particular canker. But when you compare the periods we are dealing with, at least under the Fourth Republic, from 1992 to this time, are we getting better with the fight against corruption, or corruption is getting worse in this country?
It doesn't appear that we are doing well and we are really dealing with the problem. It doesn't appear to me that much, because it seems to me that we are more or less doing well in the rhetoric, in talking about it, in making sure that it becomes part of our campaign issues during elections, and sort of talking about, okay, we're going to enact this legislation. We've set up Office of Special Prosecutor. We have increased funding to investigative bodies. And yet, we are not really feeling the effect. I don't think Ghanaians are feeling the effect of the so-called agenda to fight corruption. For me, if the efforts were making meaningful impact, we have to see less of these allegations that are reported, that are come. In fact, the last 2-3 years, we have witnessed series of investigative pieces that some of your colleagues at Joy FM have done, including Manasseh and other jobs. But yet we see something different as to what effects those investigations have on this country. We don't see people that are punished for the wrongs and the corrupt practices. If you look at the Auditor General's report year in, year out, there are a series of malpractices and corrupt practices in accounts from assemblies and other MMDAs, and yet we don't see any action with respect to that. So we may have some beautiful laws in our statute books, we may have the Office of Special Prosecutor, we may have FRAJ, but those institutions and the rules and the process that we have are not responding to the corruption issue that Ghanaians are concerned and worried about. And that is a concern to me. Look, let's interrogate even this comment by the reaction by the president that every allegation that has come before
has been investigated or is being investigated. Yes.
Yeah. Now, if the investigations have been done, but we don't know what really happened, it could be that maybe the investigative bodies are weak in general. Maybe they cannot do a thorough investigation, but we don't even know about that. So to just lay claim that institutions have investigated and yet we don't know the parameters of those investigations, it sort of undermines and stop people. And I suspect that many people are not even satisfied with the work of the investigation bodies because they are not too sure whether they did a good job. So it sort of undermines the effectiveness of these institutions, whether we are empowering these institutions effectively to deal with this matter. Let me just even pick issues of YOCO.
Okay.
One of our foremost, the critical anti-corruption institution. As we speak now, the executive secretary is an acting position, and that has been the norm in this Fourth Republic. Why is it that no government can confirm the executive secretary of YOCO? Is it a lip service that we are making? Because once you are in an acting position, your capacity to engage and to really be effective is limited.
And you may fear that if you really don't play or pander to the whims of those who are putting you there, you are less likely to be confirmed.
Absolutely. And of course, if you look at the trend, And a lot of people who are brought to Yoko are retired officers. They come for, after post-retirement, 2 years, 3 years, and then they go. What effect do you expect for such people? Look at Shrad. As we speak now, 3 years down the line in this administration, we still don't have the second deputy commissioner appointed. How do you expect that an institution that is constitutionally mandated to undertake some of this work and is required to have 3 commissioners, 3 years have 2 commissioners? How do you expect them to really engage and fight cancer? And yet we keep talking about we have resourced the institutions, we have passed this legislation, we have referred this matter to investigative bodies to deal with. I think there is something, not proper in the way we are dealing and tackling the issue of corruption. And unfortunately, because it has become a sensitive issue for electoral politics and parties campaign on that to win electoral votes, we use all kinds of language to make efforts when we are in opposition that we're going to deal with it. But once we get to power, we do something different.
Give me a second, Doc. If I can beg you to be on hold for me. I've also been joined on the phone lines by the former GII boss, Vitus Azim. You're welcome, sir. Well, I seem to have lost Vitus on the phone line. I sure should be able to come back to Vitus and hear some opinion from him on this. But I want you to conclude on this point for me. So, specifically, what do you want to see this government do to show that it is indeed committed to the fight against corruption?
I think, first of all, this government, we expect government to improve and do better from the previous regimes. That's why we go for elections. If a government doesn't perform, we vote the government out, and then we expect them to do better. For me, I expect this government to raise the bar of anti-corruption. It is not proper for you to tell me that it's a standard that if bodies, investigative bodies do their work, we don't share reports publicly. If you are committed to fighting corruption, let the public know that this is what the findings of an investigative body did. And then for the public to judge for itself whether the body did a good job or did not do a good job. It is not fair for you to tell me or a Ghanaian that, well, the matter was referred to an investigative body, they have cleared this person, when I don't have the benefits of knowing the content and how they do. So I think I expect this government and any future government to raise the bar from where other previous government left off. We need to protect the public purse. We need to show commitments. We need to show that our rhetorics are matched with actions, not just talking about it.
And Doc, I will try and get back to Vitus Azim in a second, but give me an opportunity to bring your colleague in the fight against corruption on to Mr. Azim. You're welcome. If you can hear me, Vitus, you're welcome to our front. Well, I guess I still have a slight difficulty with him. I should be able to get that fixed and get back to talking to this particular one. Yes, I'm still having the Honourable Member of Parliament here with us. And let me once again try and speak to the former boss of GI. He has been a long-time anti-corruption campaigner. Vitus Azim, you're welcome to our front.
Thank you.
Basically, the question is about whether we are making progress or stagnating or retrogressing when it comes to the fight against corruption. Under the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, what's your verdict?
Well, I don't think we're not making progress. We could have done better.
Exactly what were you expecting us to do that we have failed to do so far?
You see, we tend to restrict corruption just to the exchange of money. But if we extend it to other things, use of public power for private gain, and where private includes partisan interests and all that, you would agree that from the very beginning, with appointments of DCs, appointment of ministers, appointments of heads of state institutions, clearly you could see that there was a problem there.
Oh, what you're saying is that this government, even in this appointment, did not really take the fight and did not show signs of willingness to deal with the problem head on.
Yes.
How so?
Because the appointment is on criteria other than merit.
So,
and even with regards to the numbers, people were complaining and the president has disregarded it.
Okay, so
the numbers already.
What you're saying that some people who are not deserving of the positions were actually appointed. What other reason would anybody give for other than merit to appoint anybody to any position? And if it's possible, can you drill down to specifics?
Partisan considerations.
Oh, okay.
Family considerations, ethnic considerations were all part of what happened.
Family and
so when you look at it that way, it goes to increase the fear of corruption in the system. But when you appoint people that are close to you, it becomes difficult for you to control them.
I'm trying to get your point clarified to my understanding, perhaps those who are actually listening to us too. Mr. Azim, the president has outlined the things he has done, right from the special prosecutor's office through to making sure that every single, and those are the words of the president, from the allegations of the then Minister of Energy through to what's happening with the National Youth Authority boss and their sacking, is either being investigated or has been investigated, concluded, or in the throes of being concluded. None has been let go. That is his verdict. That is what he considers to be his credential when it comes to the fight against corruption. Solid or weak?
You see, even when you look at the numbers that he listed, that was from his side. But if you sit down and a neutral person sit down to list the allegations of corruption, they are far more than what he listed. So that is number one.
Okay.
Number two is that the investigation that he's referring to, many people have come out to express concerns about the way the investigations were done. People were not satisfied with the work. For example, the cash for seed saga.
Yeah.
The president said he has spoken to the minister and he has done nothing wrong. That was no investigation. That was no investigation.
I see.
You know, the other investigations, definitely the way the CID and the BNI come in, people have concerns. People are not convinced that they are really independent, and that they had to play to whatever the president wanted. Now, just look at the last two. The PPA boss was suspended, and it has been referred to an appropriate state institution to investigate. But the NYA one, we were not told of any investigation. They have just been fired. So you look at it as if you don't even know what method they are using. Somebody is not investigated and suspended. Somebody is not investigated and just sacked. And you see, when you do these things, they appear to be half-hearted, because if you fire the people and say, go and say no more, we don't know what other things they have done in their positions. Except
to say that, Vitus, we've been given an update that the Public Procurement Authority, which is the legitimate body that was scrutinizing the procurement request from the institution NYA, is still probing the matter as we speak. Is that satisfactory?
Which is probing? I didn't get that.
The Public Procurement Authority.
It is still being investigated.
No, it is probing the NYA matter on the substantive matter to do with the contract that was given and the request for social action that was subsequently demanded.
Yes, but they have already been sacked.
Yes.
So they have already been found guilty, right?
Perhaps from the initial information the executive is having, yes.
It's just that people are now calling for further investigations because there might have been other things that have been done that have not come to the public notice.
I get your point.
Yeah, so that's the point that I'm making. But if you suspend somebody, usually when it is an allegation involving money, you are interdicted either without pay or on half pay. But a suspension, you probably still have your car, you have your house, you take your salary at the end of the month. So you see, there's no consistent approach to the investigation he's talking about, apart from the fact that there's a general concern that those investigations were not done to the satisfaction of the majority of Ghanaians.
Now, I was just speaking to Dr. Franklin Oduro, who expressed similar sentiments about the fight not being given the necessary impetus and the energy required. You seem to be on the same wavelength. How is it that those of you in civil society differ very much from the president's conviction about so much work being done and so much progress being made on the issue about the fight against corruption?
because we are looking at it from a neutral point of view. We are not partisan. We don't belong to the NPP or the NDC, or at least we don't allow our partisan interests to sort of influence the way we look at the issues. Unfortunately, as the president of the country, he has a responsibility to respond to protect his party and his appointees, because we have politicized corruption, such that if he admits that some of his people are corrupt, the NDC is going to take it up and say, yeah, we even said you were corrupt. So there's a general tendency, it's not only with this government, there's a general tendency of the ruling party to always defend its party and its appointees because of that.
Now,
but we are most likely to look at it from a neutral point of view.
Before I let you go, there's a question about what your expectations today are of the president if he is to convince you that there is some work to be done in the nearest future on this fight against corruption. Specifically, what are you demanding of him immediately?
You see, one, I was expecting that his address would have outlined, to admit that yes, we've made some mistakes in the past, but this is the new approach I'm going to use. I'm going to adopt to make sure that corruption is actually fought in the way that my citizens expect me to do. Because he used corruption to convince the majority of the electorate to vote for him. So he raised our expectations. So we expect that he should have aligned the new steps that he's going to take to make sure that he's able to put corruption under control.
That you didn't
including granting them some independence, much more independence to do their work, assuring them that he's behind them whatever they do, and that he will give them the necessary resources to do their investigation. But this was not actually clearly spelled out by him.
Okay, I get your point. Now, one more point I may want to ask from you is whether there is hope for the fight against corruption, mindful of the current trajectory this government is taking.
Well, I have always said that if there's no hope, then those of us campaigning against corruption, fighting against corruption, will probably just give up and walk away. But as human beings, we always have hope. But the hope is in the leadership, and also with Ghanaians. We ourselves should take a stand that corruption is bad, it's harmful, and that we want to do everything to support the government of the day to curb it. But we also expect the leadership to take more drastic action against people that are found to have engaged in corrupt acts.
I want to end with this question. There is a statement that's actually being made, especially by those in government, but we can separate the president from appointees or others who have done wrong, that the executive president is incorruptible. He's shown gravitas in the fight against corruption. Is this something you agree to?
You see, no matter how incorruptible you are, if you are the head of an institution, or the president of a country, or the prime minister of a country, you have made up all the appointments, almost all the very important appointments, heads of institutions, the ministers, you have made them. So if they are doing wrong things and you are not able to control it, your inaction alone makes it difficult for us to exonerate you from corruption. So it does not matter if you are personally not corruptible, but the fact that you fail to act when the need arises puts you in that group. And again, I said that it's abuse of public power for private gain, and the private gain includes satisfying your party's people. And so once you do that, you can also be labeled as being corrupt.
Many thanks to you, Vitus. Wonderful as usual. I appreciate your time with us today.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Enjoy yours too. I'll still stay on Skype because Dr. Franklin Odro with CDD is still on the phone or on the Skype with us. Doc, to end this conversation, is there hope that this government can turn things around, mindful of the path it has taken so far?
Obviously, I mean, I'm very optimistic, and I think every government, not only this government, if you are really conscious and really want to respond to the concerns of citizens, you have to listen to them and you have to do something different. If the government feels, and it seems to me that it was the president or the government was being defensive, right? But which is expected of party in power. But if you have to be honest with yourself to realize that your responses are not meeting the expectations of the people. And if that's the case, then you have to ask yourself, what can I do differently? Can I raise the bar in a different way? Can I do something different? Can I, strengthen these institutions? Can I allow them the room to operate? Can they publicize their report? I think there's a way that every government, including this government, can turn things around. I think it's also important for us to note that Ghanaians are becoming conscious and aware and very sophisticated about how governments behave. And indeed, because we have experienced both the NDC and NPP, it becomes so obvious when party in power is behaving the same way as party that was in opposition. And so Ghanaians can read between the lines and can tell whether you are performing or not performing. And that is what I would expect every government to be very bold and not defensive, and try to interrogate what is it that they are not doing well that they can scale up and enhance. Because this is a problem for the country. It's not a problem for a party or an individual. And all of us will have to contribute in making sure that we sort of deal with this matter.
Now, in the last 2 days, before I let you go, in the last 2 days, we've seen the NPP and NDC try to out each other when it comes to what they have done, when it comes to the fight against corruption, and point the finger at the other and say, you are the most corrupt and you led the most corrupt regimes. Is this healthy for the discourse?
Well, as I said before, because it has become a partisan game, because if you recall and you study the electoral politics of this country, corruption is always an issue that voters look at and to determine the choices that voters make. And so it will always be an issue of partisan game, because obviously for the NDC in opposition that is seeking to win back power, they will have to demonstrate that this government has failed, and therefore they can be a better government and do something better. And so Ghanaians should consider it. In the same way, the party in power will also try to be defensive and try to demonstrate that, no, wait a minute, we are better than you.
Okay.
But ultimately, it is not healthy for our fight against corruption, because it reduces the discourse to partisan, brinkmanship and partisan scoring of partisan points, which with this matter of corruption.
And I must say I'm most grateful to you, Doc. I appreciate your time with us via Skype today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Raymond.
And Dr. Franklin Oduro is the Executive Director, Deputy at the Center for Democratic Development. That particular group is also the group attached to the ones that publish the Afrobarometer. And I'm sure if you've heard, the Afrobarometer year after year has talked about the people's understanding of the fight against corruption and whether or not we are winning or losing that. Let me come back in studio. I did stay on the phone line and also with Skype with some people who are not partisan people. Here in studio is the minority spokesperson on virtually everything that's relevant in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. You welcome back the Honorable A.B.A. Fuseni.
Thank you very much.
You have heard honest review, you have heard honest opinion, and you've heard people say that we are not making any progress at all in the fight against corruption.
Raymond, it's a ringing endorsement and a vindication of the position we have said that the Nana Akufo-Addo government has no iota of commitment to fight corruption. Raymond, I can give you, and I will do so in a minute.
Give me.
Look, I'm sure you heard from him.
Yeah.
CDD itself has said that under the watch of President Nana Akufo-Addo, Ghana has lost a conservative 9.6 billion Ghana cedis through corruption. This one is not an NDC generated figure for anybody to say it's partisan. CDD. And this is even a conservative figure, okay? And the presentation that he made clearly shows that the government hasn't initiated any action that would demonstrate clearly that he has a commitment to fight corruption. Let me give you some examples.
Okay.
To show how even Nana Akufo-Addo himself and his government has undermined the fight for corruption. When Nana Akufo-Addo was in opposition, He indicated that if by the grace of Almighty Allah, the good people of this country were generous enough to give him power, and when he used his try me and see slogan, he indicated that when he comes to power, he will use the Anas principle. I'm sure you can remember.
Yes.
Okay? The same Anas principle. Anas did an expose on this Galamsey. I'm sure you can remember.
Number 12.
Yes.
Okay,
number
no,
12.
that's not actually after number 12.
Number
yes.
12, that's number 13 or 14.
The Charles Bisu matter.
The Charles Bisu matter. Graphic evidence of corruption, of brown envelopes being exchanged for mining lease concessions. Okay.
The CID cleared them.
I'm just coming to that. Okay. Anas petitioned the special prosecutor. And I'm a member of parliament. I happen to know the law, at least in respect of the setting up of the office. Among others, what government would refer to the special prosecutor, and also individual citizens of this land can petition the special prosecutor to investigate matters. It's part of the law.
Okay.
Anas petitions the special prosecutor to investigate the Charles Bisu matter. What happens? The president takes the matter and runs to the CID because he's very comfortable with the leadership of Mamitiwa Adodonka Akufo-Addo.
Why is that important?
Yes, because it's one of the clearing houses. Again, you remember the A+ matter when she was caught on tape saying that that's our government. We cannot disgrace the president.
I can't recall that.
Cover it. Yes, so cover up.
But
so I'm just giving you an example. Why would the president say that tape? I'm saying that why would the president set up the special prosecutor to fight corruption? Somebody goes and makes a report, and Anas has indicated his readiness to cooperate with the special prosecutor in order to unravel the facts surrounding the corruption that happened in the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. Okay? And the next person to undermine that effort is the president himself. How does that speak to your commitment to fight corruption? Why would the president not even encourage the matter to be left with the special prosecutor to do the investigation? Why is he in a hurry to take that piece of investigation from the special prosecutor to the CID for clearance? And as soon as he went to the CID, everybody knows what is going to happen. As long as Mamitiwa is there.
Aren't you bastardizing?
Because those are facts.
The CID has outlived
Let me
the
say,
current
I'm
leadership.
not talking about the CID as an institution has very credible people.
Yes. So
I'm talking about the current leadership. That's why I'm making a distinction. We in the NDC, we don't sweep everybody or tie everybody with the same brush.
Sorry.
We are looking at your conduct, your performance. And there is evidence, Raymond, to suggest that the things I'm saying have been on air. Courtesy A+. We managed to know through that tape.
But that is being investigated.
Which
is deemed
ever since then, have you the same investigation? Let me go back.
Okay.
Under Honorable Bwacha Ajaku as Minister for Energy.
Yeah.
Okay. When you had this contaminated 5 million liters of fuel.
Yeah.
The minister felt the thing was thinking and bad enough that he would set up a committee. What did we see in the next few hours? The Flagstaff, the Jubilee House, headed by President Akufo-Addo, issued a statement that the BNI has already cleared the matter. When even his own minister found out that the thing was so bad enough that he should set up a committee to investigate.
But eventually,
the president himself cleared the transaction.
Removed.
I am just indicating to you, and after that he removed. So did he go or did he come?
Again, it was not the president, it was the BNI.
I am saying that through the instrumentality of the Flagstaff House, a statement was issued to the effect that the BNI has already cleared him. Who appoints the BNI director?
Again, that doesn't mean
who appoints the BNI director?
Institution is under
who appoints the BNI director? It's answerable to the president.
Yes. So all
I'm just indicating to you that the leadership can be complicit in condoning those acts of corruption. That's what I'm telling you.
And biological
let me add to you the president's own act himself.
Okay.
You remember in the run-up to the 2016 election, one of the sing-songs of the NPP, when they wanted to cite corruption, this was Ameri. You remember?
Yes.
This government came under the aegis of President Nana Akufo-Addo, and thanks to Honorable Bwacha Ajaku, in the process of his resignation, a lot of information came out that he had briefed the president on every single transaction, and it was the president, according to Honorable Bwacha Ajaku, it was the president himself who signed the notation, Ameri notation, and increased it from $500 million to $1.3 million. You see how the president was going to shortchange the people of this country?
1.3 billion, actually.
Yes, and had it not been for the vigilance of the minority in parliament, which was able to do a lot of background checks and to unearth the fraud in the Ameri scandal, this country would have lost $800 million Okay? Thanks to the matter. This was something that was signed by no other person. Nana Akufo-Addo himself. So when you're talking about corruption,
who said
the facade
I
of
need
his
to be clear in mind. Who said that the president signed the American Novation Agreement?
Oh, it is not in doubt.
Who said that?
Said it was and it was brought to Parliament.
Sorry, who said
I said
that?
the president signed it.
I'm asking
I'm not sure even the president will deny that he signed it. It's a fact.
Forgive me. I'm asking you,
Raymond,
who said that the president signed the Novation
I am saying
Agreement?
that it was signed by the president and brought to Parliament. It's not a matter that is in dispute.
You are of the opinion that the parliamentary document that was
It
put
is
there,
not an opinion. It's a fact that it was signed by the president. Nobody can dispute it.
on which date was this signed?
I can't immediately recall, but I'm telling you that this was an agreement that was brought.
It was the president
that
who
was
signed
brought before Parliament. Yes,
and
for parliamentary approval.
the same
the
president,
executive was seeking parliamentary approval.
and yet the same executive sought to review that particular decision, thinking it was not in tandem with
I am saying that it
principles.
was following the exposure by the minority. In fact, I can recall that because Raymond, it is my outfit that organizes press conferences for the minority.
I get you.
And I can tell you that there was a minority press conference to shed light on this issue after I had that the government fled with its tail between its legs because of the exposure. And through that vigilance, this country was saved $800 million that Nana Akufo-Addo himself signed for money to be paid.
Today, the NPP says that
so Raymond,
the NDC
there
has
are
no moral
a
authority.
litany of cases where, look, you go as far back as to the issue of the Ghana cylinder. I'm sure you heard of that one.
The Ghana cylinder
Ghana
manufacturing.
cylinder. Where
Was that a boardroom wranglings between board and CEO?
The board, are they NDC members? The board made allegation that the CEO was corrupt to the neck.
The board was sacked.
Okay? Rather than investigate and deal with the issue, the president chose and rather sack all the board members who were making the allegation and left the allegedly corrupt CEO. So you see, it
How
tells
do you know it
look,
was not
all this, the litany of them, look, we can count up to 100 and so scandals. The president is not committed to doing anything.
You mentioned barely 5. How do you count up to 100?
I can tell you there are many. Look,
purported scandals or real scandals or made-up scandals.
Look at the Australian gate. Have you seen the report?
The president says that the people have actually been cleared by a
Who cleared
legitimate institution of
Who
state.
cleared it? Where is the report? Have you ever cited the report?
So what are you disputing?
Have you ever? There was no report. Where is the report?
I'm unclear in my mind what you are disputing.
Where is it?
But you're a member of parliament.
I'm saying that I haven't seen it. That's why I told you that as we go along, you will see that one of the refuge this government is seeking is to hide behind investigations.
Are you disputing that
to sweep matters
these
under
matters
the carpet
ought to be investigated?
I am telling you, many of the things that have come that they've told you they are investigating, they are not investigating anything. They just use the facade of investigation to cover up, to buy time in the hope that they think these people in government today, they think Ghanaians, we have something in our heads other than grace.
But this
so I am telling you,
sorry,
that is why matters like this when they come, they buy time, tell you that they are investigating the matter, and very soon everything is.
But the matters are concluded. That's why you can call him the clearing
agent.
Which
matter? Yes.
Because the man is able to tell you that this matter has ended.
There is no investigation, and he clears them so much by himself.
But you can't say that.
That's what it is.
Because there's an absence of a report, does it mean that there's no investigation?
Dr. Dro just told you,
yes.
Raymond.
Yeah.
Dr. Dro just told you that if there are reports, why are they not published?
Yeah, but the fact that it's not been published.
Where is the evidence that? Where is the evidence that there has been a report?
Honorable, you remember of Parliament?
No, Raymond.
Is it your contention that merely because a report has not been published,
Raymond,
it means there's no report at all?
Where is the evidence of the report?
Have you written to any of the agencies
and
to
I'm
ask
just asking you, because look, these are public interest matters.
Sorry, you are MP.
Look,
have you written to any of the agencies to ask for this?
These are matters of considerable public interest.
Much more important to you, the MP.
It is even in the interest of government to publish those reports.
Have you asked for the
report? So that you know why? Because if you are not operating an opaque government such as is happening under President Nana Akufo-Addo.
It's opaque.
Very opaque.
Really?
Very, very opaque.
I see.
If you were to shed light, like I said, all these reports that we are talking about, they would have made all those reports available.
The NPP is asking you to make the Ford expose reports available. The NPP is asking you.
We have made it abundantly clear. Look, and
sorry.
When you are
going
to demonstrate, Raymond, let me make a comparison between the government of President Mahama and President Akufo-Addo, and you see that they are light years down the line.
Really?
Yes. Under President Mahama, okay, when allegations of corruption were made against certain institutions, National Service, JIDA, and all those things, he caused investigations to be made. Not only that, there were prosecutions.
Like has been done now.
Prosecutions. Okay?
Because there was something to be used against the
people. One example. And I'm telling you, under President
But how do you prosecute when there's no evidence and the claims were just
giving you an example. Raymond, let me land.
Yes, I get you, but
even prosecutions were made. And some people were punished for that. Okay? Under President Nana Akufo-Addo, show me one. I just want one example. of any of his officials who has been found complicit in corrupt acts has been prosecuted and action taken against him. Show me one.
Force prosecution.
Show me one.
You can't force prosecution.
I'm saying that
especially when there's no evidence.
The president is not committed. He is not committed to dealing with his own people who are complicit in corrupt acts. He
cannot manufacture the evidence.
It's not the manufacturing. Those even people he has dismissed, what have they done for him to dismiss them?
But it's still being investigated.
Why? The boss matter that he start is still being investigated. Have you heard anything?
The boss.
Have you heard anything?
Yes,
and even a second person has come, and similar allegations are even gone on him too. I'm sure you are aware. You are aware of all this litany of allegations of corruption. The president hasn't done anything about any of them.
But
what has he done?
There's a word of difference between allegations and proving facts.
I am saying that in those issues where I just even gave you how you have to truncate investigation by the special prosecutor. Okay, when he himself said he had bought into the announced principle, he comes into power, and somebody has petitioned the special prosecutor to go and investigate somebody who has been engaged in acts of corruption, and the president himself chooses the matter.
The NPP says there was
is it not manifestly clear?
There was more family and friends under your government and the NDC's tenure. It mentions names of families that were in government compared to what is the case now.
Look, as for the NPP on this matter, they have died in the market. You don't need to announce their demise.
How so?
My brother, if you are going to name family members in this government, my brother, even there are people who are even kitchen staff and others who are even family members, from ministers to kitchen staff.
Really?
It's shameful.
But
I don't want to use this platform to even go. It's so shameful.
Yeah, because
I should be doing this kind of. I mean, Raymond, if we were to start listing the names, it's incredible.
Almost 10 families that were
incredible.
In the
Show me under President Mama. How many members of President Mama's family were in government? Can you count them?
Oh, they don't only mention the family. They say that there are also people who are their own families. So they mention Hanatete and the sister.
Hanatete is a member of President Mama's family.
No, I'm saying that not his family.
Yes.
But in the government.
But I'm saying that if you can even inundate your government, this is the most bloated, most expansive, most extravagant government in the history of the world.
Is that
you know that today we have an unenviable record in the Guinness Book of Records as having the most expansive government in the world.
Really?
124 ministers. Can you show me anywhere in the world you have such?
124 ministers?
Yes, where? Which part
is it 24 ministers?
124 ministers.
Okay, now
you see that you are even amazed about the size of government.
I'm not comment on that. This
was a president who came on the stamp of a promise that he was coming to protect the public purse, and that he will make sure that he will operate a government that is austere and in tandem with the sacrifices of the
government
people.
Never had a special
atrocious level of disease he has inflicted on Ghanaians.
Your government never had a special prosecutor. So your government never passed the right to information bill. Take your time.
Merely appointing a special prosecutor. The same man who appointed the public prosecutor, he has taken the job away from him. I just gave you example. This one, it wasn't rhetoric. I gave you live example.
Martin Amido is still in charge of the press house.
I am telling you that Martin Amido even wrote it was in the media. And he has been frustrated by appointees. I'm not the one saying it. Martin Amido said he's been frustrated by appointees of his government. And this time, he has been frustrated by the president himself.
I'm wrapping up in 30 seconds.
Who took away matter that was within his purview?
Honorable.
For him to investigate and prosecute his own corrupt appointees, he has taken it away.
I'm wrapping up in 30 seconds. State exactly what you want the president to do to show that he's committed to the fight against corruption.
That is why I say I felt very sad when he had this important opportunity at the bar to have looked the good people of this country in the eye and told them that yes, as your president, commander-in-chief, I want to tell you that whatever it takes for me to do to get all of us in the collective onslaught to fight corruption, because it's a canker. I recognize that even my government is not even immune to corrupt acts. So Ghanaians, let's put all of us together as a people, put our shoulders to the wheel and fight this canker, which under his government alone, according to CDD, by conservative estimate, has taken away 9.6 million billion Ghana cedis. I'm
grateful to you for your time
Raymond,
today.
I am just indicating to you.
Yes.
But I know that, you see, Nana Akufo-Addo, this thing is, the proverbial thing like his mouth is full of water, he cannot blow to the candle fire. Because I am telling you, mark my word down, he cannot fight corruption. He doesn't have the committed, he doesn't have the political will to fight corruption. He doesn't have it.
But okay.
He doesn't have it.
I guess we can leave it off here, but thank you so much for joining us here today.
He doesn't.
The Honorable ABF.
So you see that you continue, maybe even people are now even saying that you graduate from being a clearing agent to a faithful word.
Well, that's interesting. But that's where we end today's edition of UPfront. Many thanks to you for joining us on this one. Many thanks to you, Dr. Franklin Odur, and more importantly to you too, Vitus Azim, for joining us via the various means. And folks, we appreciate you joining us tomorrow too for another edition of UPfront.